Depression is an invisible illness that consumes the mind, body, and soul, leaving only silent traces for outsiders. Why do so many suffer in silence, without ever asking for help? How can such deep pain go unnoticed, even when it is destroying every aspect of someone's life? The truth is, depression hides its scars in the depths of the mind, while devouring energy, hope, and the will to keep going. What makes this disease so difficult to identify? And most importantly, how do you escape this destructive cycle before it's too late? Are you enjoying this video? Be sure to watch it until the end to learn even more about the topic. And don't forget to check out the other videos on my channel. I'm sure something will catch your eye. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications to stay updated with all the latest content. Your support is essential for the channel's growth, and I'm counting on you. Hidden symptoms of depression. The pain that no one sees. Depression hides its claws behind forced smiles and superficial conversations. Those who look from the outside rarely perceive the depth of the pain of those who suffer, because the signs are almost invisible. The individual can get up every day, fulfill tasks, even interact with friends and family, but inside, he faces an exhausting battle. This contrast between appearance and reality creates an even thicker layer of isolation, aggravating the person's mental state. Within a depressive mind, emotions are roller coasters. One day everything seems to be under control. The next, darkness takes over everything. The energy that is required to maintain the appearance of normality further exhausts the individual. Over time, the person comes to believe that no one would be able to understand what they are going through, intensifying the feeling of loneliness. It's not just sadness, it's a meaninglessness, a total loss of purpose. The internal struggle becomes a vicious circle. The person begins to isolate himself because he feels that social interactions do not correspond to his internal reality. The invisibility of depression causes the symptoms to be devalued, both by those who suffer and by others. This cycle perpetuates the disease, delaying the recognition of the need for help and increasing the risks of an emotional or physical breakdown. Social stigma, the hidden face of depression. Why in the 21st century do we still fear to talk openly about depression? Social stigma is an invisible and powerful force, which silences millions of voices. There is a deep-rooted idea that those who suffer from depression are weak, unable to cope with life's challenges. This judgment prevents many from seeking help, prolonging the suffering in silence. The fear of being labeled or misunderstood is an almost insurmountable barrier. The pressure to overcome depression alone is unsustainable. Phrases like "this is just a phase" or "you need to be stronger" only feed shame and isolation. Stigma manifests itself in every aspect of life, whether at work, in friendships, or in family life. Society demands resilience, but ignores that depression is a disease, not a choice. This social bias contributes to depression rates not being adequately addressed, leaving many untreated. The impact of stigma is profound and devastating. It dehumanizes the person with depression, taking them away from fundamental support networks. Instead of seeking help, many prefer to hide their symptoms, which only intensifies the problem. It is necessary to break this cycle by educating people about what depression really is, a serious medical condition, which requires empathy and professional intervention, not superficial judgments or advice. The silent impact, a pain that affects everyone around. Depression does not only affect those who carry it, but reverberates through everyone around, like a wave that spreads. At work, productivity drops, not because the person is incapable, but because the effort to stay functional is almost unbearable. Each task, no matter how simple it may seem, requires immense mental energy. The individual finds themselves trapped in a fog of confusion and lack of focus, which is often misinterpreted as laziness or lack of interest. In relationships, the impact is equally devastating. Friends and family may not understand why the person is pulling away, creating a sense of frustration. Those around often don't realize that withdrawn behavior and irritability are symptoms of depression, not a reflection of the relationship itself. This can result in distancing and even breakups, which further deepens the feeling of isolation. And perhaps the most serious effect is on one's own physical health. Depression silently weakens the body. Sleep becomes irregular. Appetite can increase or decrease dramatically, and the immune system weakens. In the long term, the cumulative effects of untreated depression can result in chronic conditions such as heart disease and diabetes. It is a destructive spiral that, without proper treatment, intensifies and spreads to every aspect of a person's life. Biological and psychological factors. The invisible labyrinth of the mind. Depression is a complex maze of biological and psychological factors, each contributing to trapping the mind in a cycle of pain. The biological underpinnings of depression are largely invisible to the human eye. They involve chemical imbalances in the brain, especially in the neurotransmitters that regulate mood. When these levels are out of balance, the impact is profound, changing the way a person perceives life around them. But it's not just biological processes that govern depression. Traumatic events, prolonged stress, and even seemingly positive life changes can all be triggers for the development of this condition. The brain responds to the environment in unpredictable ways, and what may seem like a simple transition for some can be devastating for others. The psychological impact of depression is difficult to measure, as each individual has a unique combination of emotional experiences and responses. Understanding this mix of biology and psychology is essential to treating depression. It's not just about addressing brain chemistry, but also about helping the person restructure their thoughts, deal with trauma, and find new ways to face challenges. The treatment of depression needs to be as multifaceted as the disease itself. Ignoring any of these factors is allowing the cycle to continue dragging the person further away from recovery. Treatment and awareness. The path to healing starts with knowledge. The journey to healing depression starts with awareness, both for those who suffer and those around them. The first step, often the most difficult, is to recognize that something is wrong. The invisibility of the disease makes this recognition even more complicated. It is not uncommon for people to take years to realize that what they are feeling is something that needs treatment. During this time, depression takes root, making the way back more challenging. There are effective treatments, but each person responds differently. Psychotherapy, in its many forms, helps to unravel the negative thoughts and emotional patterns that underpin depression. Medication, on the other hand, adjusts the chemical imbalances in the brain, providing a more stable foundation for the person to begin recovering. The key to successful treatment is the right combination of approaches, tailored to individual needs. The role of awareness goes beyond those who suffer directly. Society needs to understand the severity of depression and the impact it has on all of us. By decreasing stigma and increasing knowledge, we create a safer and more welcoming environment for those struggling with this invisible disease. The more information that is available, the sooner people can seek help and prevent the invisible evil of depression from becoming a prison with no way out. Depression is not something that goes away on its own. What happens when we ignore the signs? How to deal with a battle that seems to never end? The real question is, why do so many continue to struggle alone, when there are paths to healing that have not yet been explored? Maybe the answer lies in the next decision you make. But after all, what does it take to break this invisible cycle that consumes the lives of millions?